So Phoenix program, biggest thing on this program is everything I put in here. Hopefully this is really useful for you guys looking down at like what the notes are on the primers, the main lifts, and the giant sets. So primers, biggest thing is driving the blood into the target muscle. And this is just the stuff you can say to the class. So this should give you everything that you need to say to them. Hey, we're focused on activation, not exhaustion. This is a superset. I want you to perform both of these exercises back to back with no rest. We're just trying to get everything activated, drive blood into the target muscle, and feel that muscle. The Phoenix program overall is a hypertrophy program, so it's high rep bodybuilding. Use these terms with them. We want them to get used to these terms. They've heard them in the past, so they should be getting better at them, but we do have new people. The stimulus, and this is the important part, you don't necessarily have to tell them this, but it's important that you guys know this so that you're coaching it properly, is the way that we build muscle in hypertrophy high rep programs is by localized specific muscle fatigue accumulation. And so the goal is for them to do more isolation exercises that pound the biceps or the chest or the back or whatever, and try to keep the fatigue in that. So we don't want people to be limited by overall general fatigue. We want them to be limited by, holy crap, my lats burn so much that I want to drop the weight. And so that's how you want to push them. And so key coaching points when you're really yelling to people or you're prefacing how you want them to lift is going to be, we want to push until failure. Send the signal to the muscle, right, Matresa? Send the signal to the muscle. Embrace the burn. That's going to be a good one too, because as soon as they feel that burn, they're going to want to quit. And you want to like coach them to say, hey, like once it burns, the 3-4 reps that you can get after it starts burning, that's when it's going to be, that's when you're actually sending that signal muscle. That's when you actually grow. And when we do that well and we really pound that on those guys, then they get better results that way and they really embrace how to chase the programming. Chasing the pump is another one. You can explain to them what the pump is. As far as rep performance, especially coming off of a power program and strength programs, when we do hypertrophy programs, this is kind of across the board. We want to see full range of motion. The other thing that helps with that, like if you talk to them about stretch and squeeze, right? So if I was doing a bench press, that I'm actually going down, I'm feeling that extra range of motion that sometimes I don't get in those strength training or like our 5 rep range, because we're just like don't feel safe going to full range of motion. This is an opportunity for people to get range of motion back in their joints and to pump a bunch of blood into the ligaments and tendons to make sure that they heal up. So people that are beat up from all the heavy weights, this is our opportunity to heal that by going full range of motion, always staying controlled, focusing on the stretch and the squeeze. And the squeeze is very important on that when you push a weight up in a bench press, it's not just push it up, it's actually trying to squeeze it together so you actually feel the target muscle. And then that's what I put on the last one, is feel the muscle. And so just review these. That's why I wanted to get a sheet out so you guys can actually look at this right before your list. Maybe we'll hang one up on the wall so that the members can see this too. But yeah, that's the big thing. So the way this is written is a little bit weird in here, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna kick off the class, regular warm up, and then everybody's gonna go into a primer superset. And so for the primer superset, if we go on day 1 and they're doing band pull aparts and ITYs, the band pull aparts, and then Alex, can I have you and Matresa demo some of this so that he can watch a little bit more, since I know you guys know these. Band pull aparts and ITYs, they would do, it's probably gonna be like 25 reps on each of these. I didn't put the reps in here, but they'll do 25 reps on their band pull aparts, no rest, no change in the timing, no ding of the bell. They go immediately to their ITYs and do that. So half the room or half of the people will start on band pull aparts, half on ITYs, then they'll switch. So those people that start on that, they will get spit into side A. And so that half of the class, those 10 people will start on the bodybuilder shoulder press and they'll hit their 3 straight sets of 20 reps. Let's go through day 1 here, and if I can have Matresa and Alex kind of pop up and demo these as we go. First thing, band pull aparts and ITYs. Band pull aparts, I don't think we even need to show that, but you want to show ITYs real quick? So ITYs, nice small plates for this. You know, some of the members have been coached in the past to lean forward aggressively on this. I don't want them to lean forward too aggressively, otherwise they're just going to get into their traps to do this. So I would prefer if they stand straight up and down for the most part, and then just think relax the neck. And then we're going to do it the way we're going to do it. This is probably going to be 10 reps on each. It'd be 10 on the I's. Yep, so 10, and then 10 on the Y's, and then 10 on the T's. Instead of going ITY, whatever. And however they want to do it, that's totally fine.
Okay,
so
do you want them to have like a good bend in the elbow like this on the T, or do you want them to be wide?
That's a good question. So I have no problem with a bend in the elbow, especially if they are getting to heavier weights. There's nothing that's wrong with that, as long as they're always trying to lead with the elbow and they're not just bending the elbow so that they can start pulling back into their traps. If you're leading with the wrist on any type of shoulder raise, you're automatically getting back into your traps in your back. If you lead with the elbows, you're going to stay in the shoulders.
Okay.
Good question. That's for side A. Side A, our first exercise. Do we have a bench out? You want to pop that bench up real quick, Alex? And we can just do this here. Bodybuilder shoulder press. I know you guys know this one really well. Oakley, this will be a little bit newer for you. Even if you don't put the weights in your hands, Alex, this is totally fine. But we're gonna wanna be as straight up as possible. And so even that would be a little bit heavier incline, but I will say for some people that cannot get their shoulders retracted and have trouble or pain in overhead press, our first default for them is always to get them back at an incline a little bit, and that's gonna alleviate the need for them to try to externally rotate if they're having problems with that. And so you'll notice like the first thing he does is he gets his butt right back against there as much as he can. We're still getting that stable pressing platform so the shoulders are back. And then if he starts from the top, go ahead and start in that top position, then he's trying to spread and open up, kind of coming out to that field goal post position. Now I say field goal post, some people are gonna take that way too literally and they're gonna come out to the side. We never wanna see the wrist dip outside of the elbows because it's just, I mean, the elbow's the support system, right? So they can go super deep into this like he is, as long as those wrists are stacked over the elbows and the chest stays up. And then when we go forward, go over top, just like he did, we're gonna squeeze to the midline, and that's how we're gonna keep him in the shoulders. So super long range of motion, controlled, feeling the squeeze at the top. 20 reps should burn them up pretty good, but they should always be pushed until failure. That one should be pretty tough. So they're just gonna hit their 3 sets in a row on that. They'll have plenty of rest time. It'll be you go, I go. Then we're going straight into a giant set of easy bar, upright row. So you don't have to go yet, Matresa. With the giant sets, very important that we try to push them to do something that's more like a 10 or a 15 difficult reps. And so if you try to get them to go for 15 reps and tell them that if they get 20 and above that they probably went too light, like they should probably stop at 20, reset their weights and go again. The whole goal of doing the giant set is for them to be able to pick up a weight, not necessarily knowing what actually going to failure looks like on that weight. And instead of being like, oh, it said 10, so I'm gonna stop at 10, it's like, oh no, I actually have 15, 16, 17, oh shit, that was really tough. And then we push them to failure on that, then they reset. Then when they go back to that weight, maybe they get 13 next time. Okay, now we're only at, what's the math on that? 30 reps. And so maybe they're gonna get like 3 to 4 really good stimulative sets on that. And so that's the important part. And so if you see people knocking this out in 2 sets, that's way too light. We want them to get at least 3 stimulative sets, I would say. So if you can push them, say, do something that's hard for 10 or hard for 15, then they should be able to get there. That being said, week 1 is probably gonna be a little bit of a mess for people to figure that out, but if they're tracking properly, then the second week we come back, they should get it right. Barbell upright row with the easy bar, we're gonna take that nice wide grip with it. So, yep, so you're kind of like your pointer finger will be in the V portion out here. And that's gonna help as you pull, draw the elbows almost to the outside when you're doing this. And so that's what we really want. We want the chest up really big. We want the elbows to go to the outside. And when you're doing this, it should feel like you're almost kind of pulling this bar into your neck at the top. That's gonna help keep them in the shoulders. That's the biggest thing. If they can keep the shelf chest up, then they're gonna be totally fine. They're gonna stay in the shoulders. As soon as you see people hunching with that neck, that's when we either need to cue them to relax the neck, or they're just going too heavy, or that's their stopping point and they need to let their partner go. So all this stuff will be you go, I go with a partner. So Matresa should hit a hard set of around 15. Maybe she gets 17 and she's like, oh crap, you go. Then I'm gonna go. And then as soon as I'm done, she goes back into it. So really only 2 main lifts on that, but if we're hitting everything till failure, that should be enough stimulation for the shoulders to be toast. And when we tested this, my shoulders were freaking wrecked and shaky after this. Side B, landmine RDL by 20. This was rough. I mean, it was great, but it was real rough. 20 is a lot. I would say that on the RDL especially, you'll see I put down here on the main lifts, too heavy will decrease stimulus to the target muscle. So go ahead and hit a couple reps for me, being like really strict and being high with your hips and everything. So when we're doing this, we want to be as close to that barbell as possible. And as she goes down, that landmine's going to automatically push her hips back so that she's pushing back into the hips and the hamstrings. Always on our RDLs, our thought process is I should feel my feet fully in the ground. And if people start trying to dip back into their heels, they're never going to feel their hamstrings as well. And that's what we want them to feel on this. Now, if it gets too heavy, you can kind of take it into a little bit of a squat. If it gets too heavy, then people are going to start squatting it to try to bring their quads into the equation. That's what I mean by we're not isolating as well if we go too heavy. So some of our real gung-ho people are going to try to do that, even if it's for 20 just to show off. And we want to call them on that, make them perfect on that. It's definitely a lung burner on that side. But we're just gonna just preface that, let them know this is gonna hurt, but you gotta be quick on your transitions between your people, be ready to switch your weights and get ready to go. You wanna pop in since she just did a couple. Heavy kettlebell swing. Now heavy kettlebell swing, very different than when we swing for a minute. This should be, when I did this, I think I did it with the 70 for the 50 total reps. A lot of our guys should be doing something like that. Okay, go ahead and hit it, Alex. So when they do heavy swings, we should be, I got him. When we do heavy swings, he should be he's got to tighten up really hard, and you'll notice that he has to really react to that. And so it's a much tighter, it's not a fluid movement, it's aggressive. He's driving the feet into the ground, you're good there. And he's locking the knees out as hard as he can at the top. When we see people doing a really good job at this and they're really locking those knees out, they kind of shake themselves back a little bit, shaken baby syndrome here. But they kind of like scoot themselves back. And so that's gonna take some cueing to some people. Like they're gonna try to go light on week 1, but like point to the veterans in class and be like, that's the way to go heavy. That's what we're talking about. That's where we talk about how you can coach the entire class by pointing out the people that are doing it well. I think that's gonna be really useful in the swings. That wrecked us. I mean, when we did it, it was awesome. Okay, day 2, we got primers, back flies, and ring row. Ring row is very typical. We just want to make sure that people are relaxing through their neck and they're really drawing the chest through Superman style, getting a good squeeze, and they're going hard enough on that. But with the back flies, this is where we want to get bent over, and we're more focused on hitting in between the shoulder blades here. And so he can go bent arm. I prefer a little bit straighter arm on this, but he wants to face the chest to the floor, and we want him to feel that pinch of the shoulder blades here. It's okay to get up into the traps a little bit, but for the most part, we just want him to feel it right in between there in kind of that rhomboid area. And so that should be tough, you know, 15, 20 reps, but just pumping blood into the muscles again. I didn't go over the primer superset. That's hamstring rollers. We've done, how do you feel with hamstring rollers? Good? Okay. And then Cossack squat, that's something that we're gonna do at pretty high rep. People should definitely grab onto the rings if necessary for people who can't do them to full range of motion. And the people who are really good at them, they probably should weight it at some level, you know? So anyways, back to day 2. Back fly ring row. Side A is barbell row. Okay, so barbell row, this will be done underhand. So we want the chest to be towards the floor as much as humanly possible. Like the higher they go up, the more they're gonna be in their neck. Now this is gonna be tough anyways because it's gonna fire up their lower back. So going pretty light. I think didn't we do this weight right here for the 20 reps when we did the test workout? I think I did this weight for the 20 reps and it freaking wrecked me. I had to take multiple breaks on my 3rd set. So you can, if you're trying to give the guys a target, it's like, that's probably gonna be about as heavy as we see anybody go. So we're looking to draw this bar to the belly button when we're doing this. We're trying to keep this good posture like he has, keeping the chest forward. But remember, it's not just about driving the elbow back, it's always about the shoulder retraction when we're doing this. And so the way that you wanna, you can go ahead and rest. The way that you really wanna cue people though, is this is a squeeze, not a throw. So if you can remind them of that, and they're gonna get some throwing reps as they get up to those really high rep points. But if they can squeeze it instead of row it, then they're actually gonna feel it in their back. Whereas if they just throw it, it's basically gonna be like a bicep jerk, and they're never gonna feel it like they should. The bicep pump on this day, if I remember correctly, was sick though. It was awesome. From barbell row, we'll go straight into cable lat push down. Biggest thing, and probably the hardest thing to coach on this, is just getting their wrists and into the right position. Like, the thing I like to say to people is like, remember, we're calling it a push down for a reason, not a pull down, and that's where everybody's gonna default to, especially people that say things like, I feel it in my triceps. Sometimes the triceps are just the thing that's screaming louder, and it's totally fine because people don't have a lot of, what would you call it, mind-muscle connection in their lats. But if you're doing it properly, we should get that slight forward lean, and then notice that she's already hooking her hands and her wrists over into this position so that she can scoop down. The arms stay super long, and if the arms don't stay long and they bend throughout, then we're not transferring directly to the lats. So she should feel, over the course of all these giant sets, a massive burn in here. And this is a super burny exercise, so people should really be suffering through this. And probably the right weight is like, that's probably, that and an orange is probably something that most of the females will do. Yeah, so range of motion is gonna be completely dependent on the individual. I can't remember who was demoing this when we were pointing that out, but like, I think it was Bruno maybe. She had excellent range of motion in her shoulders, so she could come all the way up overhead without her shoulders creeping to her neck like this, and then she could scoop down again. But some people, that creep's gonna happen as soon as they get to shoulder level, and so they should just come straight back down. The relax the neck cue has been like massive for me over the last like year or so. I don't know why we didn't use it more before. Instead of being like shoulders away from your ears, that helps too. But if you say relax the neck, it's just so easy for people to think about doing that, and it just forces them into the correct muscles. But yeah, that's the big thing to watch for, is as soon as the wrists bend, then what's gonna happen is they're gonna start pulling into their elbows and into their neck, and they're just gonna feel their triceps way more. So yeah, 50 total reps on that as well. Side B, for the primer, we've got sprinter sit-up and we've got calf raises. We did change the calf raise stuff on this, so this should be interesting. So this day, this is like I said earlier, back, I didn't say this, back and abs and calves. we've never done abs and calves as like a primary thing in Iron Hour. It's definitely not as taxing as if we had put like a major lower body movement in, but I think it's totally fine. And my abs were sore as shit afterwards, so it was pretty good. But so for sprinter sit-up, we're just on the ground, just looking to pivot on the hip here and come up and just tapping that ankle and then coming back down. So just making sure they're actually pivoting on their tailbone and they're not trying to do this the whole time. Like some people might have to do that, but I guess if they are gonna do that, then they should probably just turn it into a bicycle crunch more than anything else. And then for calf raises, these are just gonna be regular calf raises. So super simple during the warm up. They can literally go anywhere. They can go against the wall. And then we're just gonna get them to pump a bunch of reps into their calves. Not really give them too much like direction on this one because we're gonna do a more specific version afterwards. So yeah, if we go down to side B, then for the main lift, the most important thing is that instead of it being you go, I go, it's gonna be like they're gonna be working the entire time on an exercise. So while one person is doing the cable crunch, I'll show the calves while if you wanna set up the cable crunch. So for the calf work, people wanna go heavy on this. And so we will set up benches along this wall and then they'll have the cables all set up around here. And what they'll wanna do for the calf raise for the kettlebell is I wrote it in the program as 10 each leg for 3 sets instead of it being part of the giant sets like we did in the test. And they wanna go pretty heavy because this is gonna be a bent knee. And then we're gonna try to sneak the foot back as far as their ankle can handle with keeping the knee over the toe and the ankle on the ground so it's kind of full range of motion. And so the thing that you guys would wanna know, but you don't necessarily have to translate it to the members, is like you got 2 primary calf muscles, right? You got your gastroc, which is primarily used when the knee is straight, and you got your soleus, which is more of your power athletic muscle that is used when the knee is bent. So this one, we're trying to hit the soleus. It's extremely strong, so we want to load up as heavily as we can. So all I'm doing is pressing, and this is my weak leg, so you can see this one's like really tough for me on this side, and there will be people that it'll be tough for, but what I'm thinking about doing, if I go to my good leg, what I'm thinking about doing is, oh shit, I just cramped, is getting up to that full extension and kind of owning that top position where it's a really hard squeeze. And I'm thinking more about pressing my toes into the ground when I do this than necessarily like lifting the knee. And if you get it nice and heavy, like I'm doing it here, it should be pretty taxing for that, and they should feel it the next day. So while one partner is doing that, the other partner will be doing the cable crunch. Once again, on the cable crunch, they should be able to go really heavy. I think when I did for sets of 20, I think we did it with the 80 maybe, and that was pretty tough. So a lot of the guys will probably do what Matrace is doing here, maybe the 70s, but the big thing is we're rounding the back, right? So she's keeping her hips tall. The first thing you're gonna see people do, show them one where you bring your hips down to they'll do that, and it's like artificial movement, right? They're not really moving through their abs and it just cuts off the range of motion. Stay tall and round the elbows to the knees as much as you can, then come back up tall again and go back down. What we don't wanna see is people arching. This is pretty easy for them to learn once they get used to it. They just need to pull those elbows down around their head so they lock their lats in. If they're floating up here, they're never gonna feel like they can fully crunch down. So it's just rounding really hard, almost pulling with your elbows. Also, if people are really intentional about it, they'll get a cramping, like real hard ab contraction in the last couple inches. So as long as they're not throwing it and they're really trying to squeeze in the last couple inches, that's when it feels amazing. It feels like you're doing bodybuilding work. The other thing on this that you'll have to watch for when you're coaching is that if people are getting way too fast and they're throwing the bell will start to swing. And we've had people hit themselves in the head with it. So what we wanna do is we wanna mention to the partner that's doing all their calf work to be like, hey, keep an eye on your person if they're swinging, but also as coaches, we just need to make sure to tell them to slow down. It happens more at the lighter weights than the heavier weights. So something to keep in mind. Sweet. Questions about that before I move on? Okay, for the giant set, they will do rush and twists. This needs to be a loaded exercise. They need to go heavy on this. If they just go like body weight, this is just useless. You know, it's not even enough reps to really do much to them. Now, some people might go body weight, but we should still tell them to go something that they can do maybe like 10 each side with, really slow and controlled. And when they go, it's always gotta be, I'm twisting the entire body and I'm not even trying to reach for the ground as much as I'm just trying to twist my whole body to touch the ground and then go to the other side. And if you do these really hard and heavy, this is really how you develop oblique muscles, which is pretty hard for people to do. There's not a whole lot of good weighted exercises to do that. And it's pretty tough if you go heavy enough. I think I did all these 50 reps with the greens when we did it, and I was pretty torched. But this one, once again, is gonna be 2 exercises in that time, which is gonna be fast, but it's like, they should just be working at all times. Like, If you take a break from your Russian twist, you should immediately be into your leaning calf raise and vice versa. For the leaning calf raise, doesn't matter if it's on the rig or if it's on the wall, but this is kind of similar to our wolf wedge calf raise, but we're gonna let them lean as aggressively as possible. The goal here is still, it's kind of like a stretch, a full range of motion. Heels should be on the ground, and when they go up to that top position, they should get a really hard squeeze. And the other thing that we're doing here that we don't need to tell them that we're doing is we're trying to get them to stretch out through their big toes, which is a big issue for older populations, that they get immobile in their toes and they lose internal foot function. And so we're driving through the big toe here. I'm coming up to that full extension. I'm squeezing as hard as I can. I'm going back down. This is where you want to coach them to keep the knees locked, because this is more for their gastroc, right? And we already did the soleus stuff. So, there's not really a good way to weight that one. I don't think they'll need it if they've done the proper weight on their soleus work, and 50 total reps should be enough. So, but some people, I think, especially our lighter people who are really strong and are our runners, they're going to be like, Alex might not get touched by 50 total reps of double leg. Like maybe you tell them like, okay, why don't you hit 25 reps single leg on each leg and see if that doesn't hit you a little bit harder. But that shouldn't be what most people are doing, because most people just really, they can barely do single leg work anyways. All right, day 3. 1 kettlebell hammer curl, banded tricep extension. So for this 1 kettlebell hammer curl, instead of it being like a single arm hammer curl, it's just gonna be grabbing one bell, grabbing it by the horns here, and then just pumping these out. And so there's not really much to say about this, except that we want that neutral hand position. We want those thumbs up, and they're just squeezing it out. I think me and Alex use like the 40 to, somewhere in the 40 to 53 range for us, for guys. And then Matresa and some of the ladies probably more like yellow. Maybe they tap orange, but blue to yellow. And that'll be high rep. And then banded tricep extension like we do all the time, just locking those elbows into the side, squeeze it out, nice locked elbows, and they're just trying to pump blood here. Okay, now we get into the fun stuff. Full arm day and quad day. This one freaking left us wrecked. Okay, so for the arms, I think we have to preface, those of you listening, and Oakley, we have to preface that on the arm stuff, they have to keep moving. Because even as we expand the time from what we tested, it's gonna be close to try to keep 20 reps. We need them to either be doing triceps or be doing biceps, not be hanging out in the middle chatting about how much it burns and hurts. They just need to attack the crap out of this. So it's gonna be tricep extensions with the cable, and it's gonna be, do you wanna show curl while she's setting that up? Easy bar curl, we're gonna get that hand position right there. So he's in like the middle one here. And then this should be easier on people's elbows, easier on people's wrists. We're still thinking drive the heel of the hand to the ceiling, more squeezing it in, getting up to the neck. Like if we see people's elbows coming forward, unless they're so strict that they come up first and then they move their elbows forward, that means that they're throwing it. And so should squeeze it pretty hard. I mean, I think that when we did this, maybe like my curls are pretty strong, and I think I started with 25s on each side. Most of the guys are probably more in the range of like maybe 2 10s, maybe a 10 and a 5. Okay, so more like 5s and 2.5s for the ladies, if you want to give them like a place to start. And then the extensions for the cable, standing like this, or like I always prefer them kneeling just because I'm taller, so a lot of the taller guys are probably going to want to do that. But that good spread that she's getting, making sure that she's sending it off to the side. Wrist integrity is really important here. As soon as the wrist starts getting floppy, you no longer feel it transfer to your elbow until your tricep. Should make sure that you use a light enough weight that you get a full lockout every single time. That's gonna be hard at 20 reps. It's just like we have to be forgiving that the last 5 reps might not be complete lockout, and it's just gonna be really painful. That's 3 sets back and forth between those, and that's gonna completely wreck the arms. I did pull down the reps on the giant set, and I think that's like completely necessary. So when we go to the giant set for arms, we got incline curls. When we set up the benches for this, you can do different angles, but the higher angle is usually best because people just don't have the shoulder range of motion. One of the things the reason I love incline curls so much is because technically, like people, like have you guys ever heard of somebody who got so strong and then they suddenly like tore their bicep before, or they like hurt their shoulder? Like it just suddenly one day they went to pick something up and their bicep tore off their bone. That's because people get short in their bicep tendon, and so the bicep, at full range of motion, it crosses into the shoulder and into the scapula. And so when he's relaxed against the bench and he's pulling his shoulders back and he's full length here, we're technically getting them mobility through their shoulder and through their bicep. Takes care of elbow problems. When he's doing this, go ahead and do both at the same time. He's gonna squeeze up, and you'll notice he doesn't bring the elbows forward at all. And so that's gonna keep it real heavily in the peak of the bicep there. And you should feel like a really targeted burn there if you're really strict with it. So it's just squeezing into place. The elbow doesn't move at all. Any throwing is gonna get it out of that position. That's gonna be really freaking hard. It's only 35 reps there, but once again, if he gets like 15 reps on that and he's toast, and he will be toast, then he needs to run over right away and get into the easy bar skull crushers. These are gonna be done on the floor. And so because they're done on the floor, we can definitely double down on, so she's over her eyeballs here. I even love a little bit more. If you can come back, then we're at a more stretched position in the tricep here. And then she's gonna come and try to touch down behind her head. Now without the plates on it, that's gonna be a really long range of motion. But with regular plates on it, they should probably tap the ground on every single rep. And then just squeezing it out, like just trying to keep the elbows close together as much as possible and just keeping those elbows kind of over near the chin a little bit more. 35 reps on that. That should still elicit like 3 really hard sets of like 10 to 15 for them, especially if they don't change the weights. Now, the quad side. We got banded frog squats. Wolf wedge air squat, really simple. Just getting on the wolf wedge, just getting knees over toes, trying to get into deep stretch with the quad. But the banded frog squats, do you want to show this?
Sure.
We've got banded frog squats is going to be the weirdest thing. So getting the band around both knees. Once again, just, at first, often when we're coaching the banded frog squat, we're trying to get them to get their elbows inside their knees so they don't cave in like this. But frankly, just sending the knees back, even if you're in a regular squat stance, was totally fine. And the goal here is for them to really feel this teardrop muscle, this VMO that we talk about. I mean, we've had what? You've had ACL injury, right? You've had ACL injury, you didn't have the knee stuff, you had ACL. Like that VMO, if that gets weak, causes people just like wreaks havoc on their knee stability. And so we want to get them back to a locked position. You can even see that my ACL knee doesn't lock out all the way the same as my other one does. So we wanted to get them back and feel them a squeeze in this. So they're gonna still lean forward and kind of get bent over when doing this. Right into her butt. And go ahead and show them.
I just don't want to knock over these cups. Sorry.
I got them. I got you, dude. Come on over. Come on over. You're hanging out. So just right here. And that's going to be pretty high rep. And if they're doing it well and they're doing it with enough band tension, there is like too much band tension, they're going to feel like they're just getting yanked forward. Enough band tension and high enough rep, they should feel that VMO fire up and just generally the quads get pumped up. So we may hear that from some people as like, hey, I feel my glutes. Maybe what we see is that some people who don't have as good a connection to their quads, at least the distal end of their quads, that maybe they get better connection to the distal end of their quads after doing it for 4 weeks. Sorry, buddy, I kind of tackled you there. Okay, sumo squat. Toes pointed out. We're thinking opening the knees to the outside. We're still keeping with that sumo stance idea here. So if she pauses down here, you'll notice her knee is relatively over her ankle here. So she's getting a nice direct drive down. If she was way too far out, then we're risking that knee diving to the inside. Did you cramp? This is going to be one of those things where a lot of people are going to feel it more in their glutes when they're doing it, especially with that upright nature, but then afterwards they're going to feel the quads. And like the research is pretty clear that in sumo squat positions, the quad activation is the same as if you do things in conventional positions. So go ahead and just show a few reps, especially for the camera here. I know you're cramping and everything, but she's going to try to keep that chest as upright as possible. And so if you tell people to lead with the kind of tip of your collarbone here, lead with that chest and really dip down into it, that's when they're going to feel their best. And so it's really easy for people to try to reach for the ground with the kettlebell. We want them to avoid doing that. Get there by just bending your knees and getting them to the outside. High rep, it was tough, but like me and Alex did it with like the monster bells, and that was good. So if people need to go double kettlebell, they can. Single kettlebell was pretty awesome though. I will say one thing is like, because Alex and I were using the heavy bells, the height of those heavy bells are so much that range of motion got reduced for us. And so what we ended up having to do was stack a 45-pound plate, put our legs up on the 45-pound plate. So we'll have those out. Not everybody has to do that, but especially like if you're using the 150, you should almost certainly be on those plates because the range of motion suffers enough that you don't get deep enough knee bend to get really into the quads. And that's the purpose of this. All right, last but not least, Nordic quad extension. So this is a new one. When we tested this, it was really tough, but it destroyed the quads. I dialed it back from 50 reps to 35 reps on this, and it does take long enough that it'll be you go, I go again. This is something more so like, if they were able to do 15 reps on this in a row, I would be shocked, and they're probably got way too much band tension on, so more like 10 reps for this one. Can you get 10 reps? So the goal here is for Matresa to keep her butt forward, and so that she's leaned back almost, nice straight body, and those arms are gonna be forward. And so she's coming, and then as she comes up, she's driving her feet into this pad. And so it's the quads that are driving you up out of that stretch. And so controlled on the way back, nice deep stretch, and then go up. Now, not everybody can get to the depth that she's going to there in our classes. And so some people are just gonna need to go part of the way down, but I would like to get almost everybody into a kneeling position because it's just something that some people have lost. That's it. You guys got any questions about this? No? Pretty straightforward? Biggest thing is like, you know, there's just the mentality changes, right? Instead of us we're talking about technique and everything, and we want to watch for technique, but the whole mantra is just like push through the burn, you know, like embrace the fatigue, like we're trying to send a signal to the muscle, push till failure. And the more you say that, you'll see the whole collective class starts to do it more and more. And I think that's why we've had success in these high rep programs in the past, is just the way that we're coaching them. So it's like fatigue is a good thing in this. People should definitely come in. If people are asking about getting dizzy or feeling like this is like cardio work, they need to come in carbed up for this. So this is like when you do localized muscle work, you're just sucking the carbs out of the muscle. And if you don't come in well hydrated and well carbed up, you're not gonna get a pump. And that's always an indicator that we're doing something good, is if they get a pump. On to dynamic. So I'll just go over this really briefly. You guys can look at the things when they're in CloudFit as far as the specific exercises on the circuit. So Tuesday, we're gonna snatch from the floor. Thursday, we're gonna swing snatch. On Tuesday, what we're gonna do, instead of doing a whole bunch of drills like we did during the last program, we're just gonna do one drill. Like it's gonna be like, hey, today's focus is on the punch through or something like that. So it's like, you can still like take them through the whole thing, right? The whole setup, like, all right, I'm gonna karate chop my hips back, I'm gonna squat down to this bell, I'm driving through my legs. But today, when you guys are practicing, I want you guys to focus on the punch through. And then so we'll drill on that, and we'll give a specific drill for those things. And then we'll get right into practicing, because we won't have that much time. It's more like we maybe get a 10-minute block when we're doing this stuff. So one focus drill each day. Keep the focus on the thing that we're trying to push them on, and then, you know, cue that as they're going through things. I wrote this on both of these. Make them perfect. This is where we really want to heighten our standard for how we're coaching. Is the reason that people don't like that we haven't been practicing snatch is because they've gotten rusty at it. They don't feel good about it anymore. A lot of the new people, honestly, their snatches suck. And it's just like, it doesn't feel good to be bad at things when our veterans are freaking stellar at them, and then our new people are like, I haven't even practiced this. So they want to be coached in these exercises, and so try to look for all imperfections and, you know, equivalate the positive feedback with the negative, but really try to make people perfect on this. Big focus on leg drive. Big focus on tall posture. What I mean by tall posture is that not getting down deep into it and then jerking out of it, staying super tall with it and getting out of the hole with just those legs. Nice high elbow. So we talk a lot about zipping up the sweatshirt. You've been through this before, but I'm just reiterating about getting that high elbow and waiting till the last second before we actually get that punch through. As soon as people try to dip their elbow underneath, making it kind of a weird snatch clean combo, it gets super messy, and I get really nervous, especially if they get into the heavier weights, about what that's going to do to their elbow and their shoulder. We will move from high reps in the beginning of the program to low reps at the end of the program, just giving them a lot of reps in practice at the beginning and then challenging them to go heavier and get their timing down later in the program. The circuit on Tuesdays is going to be the EMOM format that we're doing today. 8 exercises on the floor, 2 zones, basically treating it like 2 different workouts with a longer rest in between. We will likely only do 3 laps because we need time for the snatches. The one we did today was extremely long. That's what made it so hard. So we'll have 1 lap off of that EMOM workout, and so we can still keep it high intensity. One thing to remember, if you're in here for the 5 a.m., and so Bruno and Taylor, if you're in here for the 5 a.m., Oakley, if you're in here for 5 a.m., and Trace already knows this and does this, feel free to adjust the reps. You see that 5 a.m. class go through, and the reps were just way too light on something like, if I do an inchworm and I write 5 reps for an inchworm, and people are finishing that in 20 seconds and it's not hard enough, jack it up. Jack it up to 8, jack it up to 10, whatever you think is fit to get it right, because sometimes we can't test every single one. And so just feel the freedom to be able to do that. Just always emphasize to them that, like, this is a strategy workout. That's exactly how it was today. So Thursday, we'll do swing snatch. Same thing, 1 focus drill each day, make them perfect. The only big thing that's different on this is as they swing through, we talked about this in some of your rep work. As they swing through, the big focus is on the leg drive. We're not just leg driving and sending it out, but that we actually have to transition that bell from coming through to leg driving to vertical. And so it's almost more of a scoop of the butt under in order to transition a heavy bell from moving this direction horizontally into a vertical movement pattern. And so you have to watch that. The other thing that's going to be different is we're going to want to focus more on how they transition back into their next swing. So from that top position, we like to talk about diving the thumb down and getting it away from your body so that you swing, because if people just drop it down, then this happens. They don't get a good swing. They get jerked on their shoulder. So chest stays up. I come out away from my body, I get it into that nice swing, and then I transition back into it. We'll practice in a little bit here though. Circuit for that one is gonna be much simpler. 10 exercises on the floor, 1 big zone, very easy. Minute to win it. First lap is gonna be a minute of work, 25 seconds of rest. Second lap is gonna stay same exercises, but it's gonna be 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds of rest. We haven't done something this long in a while, and so we want to approach this as telling them like, this is an endurance workout. We want you to move consistently the whole time. I don't want you to go heavy and die halfway through or hear you complaining the entire way. This is a challenge for you to breathe and be able to pace yourself during these workouts. And even like the exercises that I will do is gonna be, there'll be more bear crawls and stuff like that. And there's gonna be like, sure, there might be swings, but we're not gonna do double kettlebell heavy swings during a workout like that. So it'll be very stark difference. Tuesday will be high intensity EMOM, attack the shit out of it as fast as you can. Thursday will be endure. You're not gonna get that much rest time. It should be like a real sweat pouring, like kind of medium heart rate type of workout, especially if they're keeping their breathing about them. That's where you wanna coach them. Keep breathing during these exercises. They can't really do that on the EMOM. They can try, but they're intense enough that they're gonna tighten up. On Thursday, they need to be able to breathe. Cool, any questions on that? Awesome.